Hello, Abigail here with the astrology and tarot for the full moon in Scorpio. This full moon is on May 1st at 12:22 a.m. Uh, CST. Forgetting which time zone I'm in. But this full moon is intense. So, firstly, all Scorpio moons are intense, they are in detriment. There is a complexity about them just in general, and then we add the layers of what's going on in this moment. And this is quite spicy, to be frank, to be honest. Um, so we have it in detriment. It's where the moon doesn't quite behave the way we expect. It's not as soft, it's not as gentle. The emotions are more intense and volatile. There's a lot of um, just vibrational energy in a Scorpio full or new moon. This is a full moon since we are in Taurus season. And so just be prepared for this to be a lot. It's at 11 degrees of Scorpio. So it's hitting a couple different places in the sky. It's got a very loose sextile to Jupiter, which I do think is going to help mitigate this slightly, but it is loose. It's not very close. So there's a sense of things shifting and changing for the better, but we're definitely going to be in the thick of it for this full moon because we have a square to Pluto, and Pluto has a pretty wide orb. I think it's at 4 or 5 degrees. So, but Pluto has a 10-degree orb generally. And so this is a Pluto square full moon. So it creates a T square. The access point to get out of said T square is in Leo. And so there is an energy of needing to be all and everything that we can be in this moment. And a lot of us are exhausted and tired, and it's a square, so it's not fun. And we also have, you know, this full moon is also sextiling the south node, which, while a sextile is not a super high pressured aspect, there is also this element of the past and past lives and energy that's built up and things that have kind of accumulated over time. And so it feels like this is the precursor to a big purge. I don't think the purge is necessarily happening on this moment. That's kind of the moment where we kind of accept that we need the purge, that we can either choose to deny or to invite in this kind of shift and this Pluto cleanse. But in the moment, it is going to be difficult. In the moment, it is going to feel complicated. I think for a lot of us, a lot of really strong feelings around um, things that happened in the past that we may have thought we'd gotten over or felt that we had processed, they're going to hit full force in this full moon. We also have some other astrology happening around. Interestingly enough, while it's not on the same axes, um, Mercury is exactly where the new moon in Aries was. And so, with that over there, new moon in Aries, there's like a follow through, kind of a pinging off of each other. And so Mercury is giving voice to the stuff that we were kind of experiencing on the underbelly of things. This is also very Pluto, underbelly of things in that new moon in Aries. So there's definitely a shorter term culmination. I also think if we look back, this goes back to the Scorpio new moon that we had 6 months ago. So there's this energy of like a 2 week process, and then this energy of like a 6 month process. And we are definitely going through it. Also, because of where the eclipses have started to happen, this is also the kind of ish midway point because we're dealing with two axes. We've got the Pisces Virgo axes, and we've got the Scorpio Taurus axes. We are also kind of at the midpoint of the eclipses as well. So there is a testiness. There is a kind of, have we learned our lessons? Have we processed? Have we taken those lessons, internalized, and done something with them? If we have, I do think this full moon might be a smidge easier. If you haven't, this moon is going to be tearing off the mask of the things that you've maybe been trying to cover or trying to ignore in relationships or in a job or in any situation. This is just a moment of like being done, being very done. Also, we do have some support. Well, it's not connected to it on the same day. We have Venus sextile Saturn. And so there is actually a nice little dialogue between Saturn, which is about the long term and about boundaries and about what we can and cannot accept and our own limitations, and Venus. It's we are going to come up against what is possible and what is functional. Also, this is in a fixed sign. So, like, what are the long term capabilities of anything we're engaging in, whether it be a job, whether it be a relationship, whether it be a family dynamic? Are you going to be able to continue as is? And I think what a lot of us are going to find is the answer is no, because that's kind of where squares sit in like the nose and in the like, not possible, not functional. We don't have the tools, we don't have the resources. I do think it's an opportunity to pivot. But in the moment of pivoting, there is grief, there is loss, there's having to accept that things haven't quite turned out the way that we had hoped. Especially, I think if we're looking at like timelines, if you have done a lot of work since the eclipses, not just these eclipses, but the eclipses that happened back in 2025, um, there might be an energy of being like, I did all of this work, I put in all this effort, but like I let things go. I abandoned things that were not good for me. I left. I made really difficult choices in order to choose myself. Where's the good? Where's the reward? Where's the harvest from all of this labor I've been doing? And I think part of the reason this is feeling this way is because we've been dealing with so much, and also Saturn is still conjunct. It's moving away, but it's still conjunct Neptune. And so there is a lack of visibility when it comes to the stuff that we've been doing, when it comes to the work, when it comes to the effort. Also, I always find at the beginning of a Saturn cycle, there's like this energy of like, how is this playing out? And how does it tie back to the last one? And where are we headed? Because now we're in this new Saturnian energy, and then there was the old one. It's also important to note that Saturn is in fall in Aries, so it doesn't really act in a normal way. There's a quickness to Aries. It's a bit quixotic. It doesn't. It's such a fight between yes and no all the time. So in this moment, it just feels like there's a lot of why. There's a lot of what are we doing? And with Mercury conjunct Chiron at the same spot where we had that new moon in Aries, it's like, I have lost so much. I am so wounded. I am so tired. I am so worn out with the energy. When is something good going to happen? Now, I do think, even though the Taurus new moon is conjunct Algol, fixed star, I do think that the new moon in Taurus is going to bring some good stuff. It's just going to be in an interesting way because of that conjunction with a malefic star. But I often think a lot of this will make sense in the context of a full moon in Scorpio, I promise. I do think whenever we're dealing with malefic energy or not good energy, a lot of it is about understanding our place in the concept of good and bad and right and wrong. And I use air quotes because a lot of that is subjective. Um, and in this moment, I think we are having to restructure how we see ourselves. We're restructuring how we see society. Um, any like long held beliefs are kind of falling away and slipping through our fingers. And in some ways, it's a huge relief. And in other ways, all of our delusion is falling off, which to me is very much Saturn Neptune. Like there is stuff obscure that we're not going to know about, but also at the same time, Saturn is in the midst of things that are obscured and bringing a very physical presence to them. So we are also getting revelations at the same time as other stuff is being hidden. And so I do think kind of looking at this full moon and this new moon as a pair, in spite of where that new moon is, it doesn't really have any aspects to any of the trickier planets. That area has just lost Uranus, so free from that for the first time in 7 years. Um, and so I do think there's a freshness and maybe value in revisiting the mythology around that fixed star. I do think it is going to be people um, choosing what appears to be the worst option, but it is the option of long term success. It is an option of like, I just lost my whole train of thought. Yay. This is what I get for having Venus, Neptune on my Venus. But there is a lot in that new moon that I think is going to be good, in spite of that conjunction with Algol. I think it also is, Algol to me has a lot to say about justice and injustice. And I do wonder if we aren't going to see some justice in our lives. Um, Maybe not in a way that feels the best or like feels clean necessarily, but I do think that new moon is bringing in new stuff, and I do think the Gemini Sagittarius moons are going to be a nice breath of fresh air for sure, especially with Uranus there. Anything can happen, right? So in this moment, the reason I'm like waxing lyrical about other moons is because this one's hard. And I do think we get some better astrology moving forward, but this is really the sticking point. Also, this is the last moon that is under the influence of the Saturn Mars conjunction. And Mars is at 17 degrees, I think 17 or 16 degrees of Aries, but still technically close enough to Saturn for it to be the problem. And it's moving, not moving, it's ruling this moon. And so it's just malefically ruled, conjunct Saturn, square Pluto. Mercury, while not completely involved, is also pinging off a place that was pretty difficult with the new moon that we had 2 weeks ago. And so I just want to prepare you for it to be difficult. Like I always say, everyone's at a different point. Some are the beginning, middle, and end. If you're the beginning, this is the start of something fresh and of you having to really advocate for yourself. If you are in the middle, um, it's time to pick yourself. It's been long enough. And if you're at the end, you're almost to the finish line, bestie, on whatever major thing has really felt stuck recently. I do think this is the preamble to things finally starting to move. And um, as we move through Taurus with the sun, and we hit Gemini and Cancer, technically we are dealing with slightly less funky astrology. Will it return by the end of the year? Of course, of course. But we do get an element, we are kind of breaking through a barrier in this full moon. Just know that there is, yes, in fact, a barrier, and know that it is going to be hard. And themes of death and separation and um, trauma and emotional struggle. I also think because the sun is in Taurus, and Taurus is kind of reliance on surroundings and resources, and Scorpio is kind of like reliance on more intangible things. And then we have Pluto and Aquarius, which is like the masses, communication, technology. I do sense that there's also starting to be a separation for some of you when it comes to technological use. What is the value of staying connected in that way? Why do you stay? Maybe if some of you aren't fully leaving social media, some of you are definitely kind of coming up with strategy for maybe a healthier relationship. Um, this is also very linked to survival. I think a lot of us, as this economy worsens, as um, it was already crumbling, let's be clear, before what's his name got in power. But the acceleration of it is really starting to crunch people, lower middle class, especially below the poverty line, is just devastated at this point. And so I also think we're going to see um, a lot of reports about how actually really bad it is. And they've been trying to cover stuff up. And I think we're definitely going to see those cover ups being revealed, the casualty lists from what's been going on in the Swana region with the bombing of the US bases and the, illegal war with Iran. We're going to see a lot of stuff on the world stage coming about. And so overall, this is just a very overwhelming full moon. And it is very serious. And while Venus is sextile Saturn, it's still sextile and malefic. It's still dealing with difficult topics. And while I always try to give a little bit of hope, and I still think there's hope, Venus is also in orb to a trine with Pluto. And so revelations about people's behaviors, the way they behave, I will say, on a bright side, if you've been wondering how someone feels about you, you will probably find out around this moon, whether on purpose or whether by accident. If you wonder if a friend has been talking behind your back, or if someone really, really cares about you and just hasn't expressed that to you, that is the bright side of this energy. You might have a sudden confession of an admirer. Will it be messy and weird? Yeah, but it might be really cute. Um, there's also, you might have someone in your corner who you didn't expect to be in your corner. So I don't want to say it's all bad. It's just the good stuff is going to be really odd and kind of unexpected. And the rough stuff is going to be pretty on brand for the energy. And so I just want to encourage you to hang in there, rest as much as you need to, because this is a difficult one. The astrology of this week is not necessarily easy either. Lots of South Node interactions, Venus square the nodes the day before, and then sextile Saturn, and it's just a whole lot of mess and a whole lot of frustration and struggle, and definitely like crying in the shower and asking the universe why, and being like, also, because this isn't a fixed sign, like I've done so much work, and where's just something to like make me feel better, where's something that encourages me to carry on, where's some kind of success, where's some kind of hope. And so I do feel like this is a very hopeless moment in the sense of how we feel now. I think in the days following, especially, I'm going to take a peek at the astrology, especially maybe not the week after me seeing the astrology and being like, but I do think the week of the new moon in Taurus, I do think we are actually going to see, so the week of the 16th, we are actually going to see some good stuff. But there is this extended period of time where goodness feels very far away, where the problems and issues we're going through are even larger than life. It's like they're magnified. And so I encourage you to indulge yourself a little bit in a very Taurus way. I actually indulge myself and then put myself in a flare up because I'm not supposed to have gluten. It's very Taurus of me to be to completely right. Also, it's on my this new moon is on my birthday. It's also very this new moon of me to completely wreck myself eating snacks. Um, a little humor for you. Uh, but just know that it is coming. The things you're hoping for, the desires that you have, the stuff that you have been craving and investing in, they exist. They are coming. This moon is just going to feel like it's not, and it's never going to come. And well, like I said, I think we might have some surprise little interesting anomalies in there. It is going to feel kind of like a heavy blanket layering on top of us. And so I encourage you to practice some magic, to contact your ancestors, to hang out with your guide, to hang out with your friends, to spend time with people you love in this time, to reach out if you're feeling isolated and alone, because these types of astrological moments can be really hard, especially if you are at all isolated and don't have a whole lot of access to people. But we're going to look at the tarot, see if there's not a little, maybe there's a little hidden good thing in here as I pulled the devil. Not necessarily bad. Also a reminder that, like, a detriment moon is a bit subversive, and there might be some fun subversive stuff that, ooh, okay, interesting. I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah. Oh, actually, I'm enjoying this. This is making me feel a little better. Part of the reason I like doing these tarot readings is because I can see the astrology and look at it, but when I get to look at the cards, it's an energetic message that kind of can give some nuance to what feels really heavy. Now, we do start out with the devil. There is definitely going to be an impulse to go overboard on a lot of stuff, either in our language, Mercury conjunct Chiron, or in our habits and our hobbies when it comes to food, which honestly, please eat your snacks. A fed body is a happy body. But just like maybe doing stuff that doesn't make you feel super good afterwards. So maybe let's not do that. Also, a reminder, and this is something that was a big theme last year, and it obviously is carrying into this year, of like use your coping mechanisms wisely. You have them for a reason. Just use them consciously. Use them in a fun way, not in a way that makes your life worse. Um, for some of you, I do think it is like the world is burning. Go do something you are like afraid to do. Go do something that like not dangerous, of course, but like something that you like feel hesitant about or feel a little bit of shame about or like maybe people will laugh. Who cares if people laugh? Those people are boring. So there's a message here of like don't go crazy, but also spice up your life a little bit. Have some fun. Be flirtatious. Um, write spicy stuff on threads or something, which I think is what a lot of people do. You know, there is an element of play within the seriousness of it all and a reminder that we need play in order to survive. Interestingly enough, we do have the 8 of Wands, which to me, I was trying not to like give false hope, but also not to be, too doom and gloom. But I do think with this 8 of Wands, I think stuff is coming in faster than you think. Stuff is coming in faster than you think. Things are actually moving. The High Priestess, they're just moving very behind the scenes. You're just not going to know until these things kind of break through the like fog of the current energy. And when it does, it's going to be beautiful. And I think you're going to actually get a lot of the stuff you've been waiting for. But in this moment, it is all definitely kind of buried under everything. So in the moment where you're asking, why the hell haven't I been given good things after doing the right thing? Firstly, very rarely is goodness rewarded on a physical level in this plane of existence, as we have daily proof. But know that the universe will reward you. Society probably not, but the universe will reward you. It will bring you something. Um, it'll, at the very least, give you just enough to keep you going, which is kind of what the vibe is. I will say with the High Priestess, I think you're going to get an initial kind of little taste. And then as we move into the summer, something that you've really been hoping for is actually going to pop off. So hang on, have faith, believe that this is coming because honestly, that's how we're all going to make it through this. We also have my favorite card and the card of my deacon in astrology, and also the deacon of this full moon, actually, because it is the second little middle deacon. And the deacons are the divisions within each sign. And so there's the first, second, and third deacon. So 10, 20, and 30. Well, 30. Um, and so there is a reciprocation in this energy. Your work is going to pay off. You are going to get um, help. You are going to get support. You are going to find your people in the next 6 months, I'm hearing. But we do have to hang through. We also have the Hierophant, which I love it in this card, little mycelium, little mushrooms. I do think so. I'm getting there's a subset of you that is going to find someone who is older and wiser to mentor you or to support you in this time. And then for another subset of you, you are going to have to become um that person who is giving and who is guiding. I think some of you have been holding off on seeing yourself as a leader, but you are in fact a leader. But not a leader in the sense of like, oh, you small foolish creatures, I am in charge. But a leader is in like someone who people look up to, someone who people go to for advice. There's also something in here about in this full moon, a lot of you need to start actually valuing the work that you do. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to raise prices or rates, but if you are struggling to make ends meet and you are in the red because costs have risen and you haven't raised your rates, you're gonna have to do it. You can have a sliding scale option. You can offer deals, which is what I do to make things a bit more affordable for people. But you also deserve to have your work valued. There's a really bizarre and capitalistic message that goes through leftist circles all the time, and I'm always correcting people where they're like, oh, in order to be like a revolutionary, you need to be broke. And the answer is no. Communism, socialism, liberation, all of these things aren't about people not having stuff. The reason we don't have stuff is because of the elite. It's because of the people up top. Yes, you're allowed to charge for your stuff. In a equal world, we would be making enough of a wage to be able to afford handmade products where the people who hand make them actually get paid back an equal rate. The only reason we don't have that is because we have sweatshops that these companies exploit people who do make handmade goods, and then they take all of the profit for themselves. And so those people live in poverty and they have so much money you can't even imagine. And so there is this message here of like, you need to shift your idea around business. You charging your worth is not you denying people services. You charging your worth is not you excluding people. You are trying to survive a capitalistic hellscape as well. As long as you're not being exploitative, your work is valuable. You know, the reason I charge the rates I charge is because most people, unless they really want to, only see me once or twice a year. And I offer a very comprehensive service. And so it is worth a couple $100s because you don't need to keep coming back for more unless you want to. And so, you know, and if someone wants a cheaper rate, I have discounts all the time on my stories on Instagram. You should go check them out. You know, I offer discount sliding rates, things like that to allow access, but also I have to survive and I have to eat. Yeah, I get mad, especially like with people who make handmade goods and people go, oh, it's too expensive. And I'm like, well, you can't buy it. Like, yeah, there's tons of beautiful handmade stuff that I can't afford. If you really want to like actually be able to afford that, then you need to start talking about like people having an actual appropriate wage, about universal health care, about universal basic, I don't even want to call it minimum, but like a basic wage that is like available to everyone so that they can survive and live in this society. And so a lot of you need to start viewing money as energy. You need to start viewing you as someone who is deserving of being paid for what you do. Also, weirdly, when you raise your rates, people respect you more. It's bizarre. I don't understand. It's just a thing. They respect you more. They respect your time more. I don't know why, because that's not how I operate. But a lot of you in this moment need to value yourself, and I know it feels because you're like, where's the value? Where's the payback? Where are the clients? Where are the sales? Where's an economy I can actually survive in? It does feel as though in this moon that there is nothing, but stuff is happening. And a part of the stuff happening is you shifting your ideas around who is deserving of having money. And you are one of the people who is deserving of having money. Your neighbor is someone who deserves to have money. The person who is at the car wash, who is at the register, deserves to have money. And if not money, in a different society where we're not run on currency, all of their needs met and the ability to enjoy themselves. So, you know, it is about value. This moon is about value. It's very fixed sign energy. We do have the Four of Swords. So all of this is all of this is emotional work. But as far as physically doing something, I don't think there's a whole lot you can do. This moment is about sitting in the energy and about shifting your perspective and opening yourself up to a time when things are going to be shifting and moving in your favor, and where you are going to get back what you put in. And that time is coming, but it feels like for most of you, you have done all the work you can do. And now we have to wait for it to come in. We have to wait and trust that the universe is going to bring it to us. And this full moon is going to be a test of that faith. However, I do want to pull these three cards together because I do think it's really beautiful. So in the middle, we have our Queen of Cups, we have Two of Cups, and we have the Six of Wands. It's coming. The thing you've been hoping for, the relationship you've been desiring, the connection you've been needing, the care you have been giving to others and not receiving back, that is coming in 2026. Six of Wands. But in this moment, it is going to feel like it is not. And I'm encouraging you to have some faith and to believe. I think a lot of you have been manifesting and have been doing the magic, and you're kind of just waiting for destiny to happen. You can absolutely do some spell work on this full moon. Is it going to speed things up? I don't think so, because the stuff is already coming, actually a lot faster than you think. But just know that in a moment where it is going to feel like nothing's working, things are working, and you are very close to the culmination and fulfillment of your emotional, physical, and passionate efforts. And a part of the world that we live in and the communities that we live in is believing that we deserve good things, is believing that even though we're all fighting uphill against a system, we can find ways to be successful. We can find ways to share and find community and connection and build families and homes and groups in spite of what is happening, because that is how you change the world. And I want to say, especially if you're feeling very lonely, this doesn't have to be romance necessarily, but there are some really beautiful friendships coming in this summer for you, specifically in June. Probably the Cancer portion of June, so second half of June. But I want you guys to hold on, and I want you guys to believe, speaking to myself as well, that while we're going to use our coping mechanisms, we are going to need to reclaim our power and our ability to speak truth to the world, to ourselves, to others. This is a turning point, a difficult turning point. Wee. A not so fun moment, yes. I am absolutely planning on probably crying in the shower, and maybe not even crying in the shower. I might just cry. I know it's going to be a hard day, but I also think it is going to be a moment that, looking back, we are going to recognize that it was a turning point, that it was a moment in which something clicked in our lives and we chose ourselves and we had hope and we made it through. And on the other side, I think in the next couple of months, we're going to see a lot of really lovely stuff before the astrology gets really spicy again, which is going to happen definitely Leo season, because we have all of the Saturn oppositions, Saturn trines, Neptune trines, Pluto opposition, and Uranus sextiles all at once. I write down all the astrology of the year ahead, so I kind of can like soak it into my body, and doing the weeks of July is like Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, over and over again. So, but we have a couple of months where it is actually genuinely better. And that's caveat, better in the context of what this is, but better than we have been experiencing in 2026. So, hang tight, buckle in. Some of you have been in a really tough struggle for the past 3 years. 2 to 3 years is what I'm hearing. Things are about to break, and they're about to break in a really unusual way, because the way that the world is moving, the way that life has been shifting, it feels like it's impossible to attain our dreams. But it's not, because we work with energy. Repeat after me. The energy, while it is attached to this world that we live in, the energy is not ruled by the world that we live in. And so we can change things, and we can shift things for the better in our lives, in other people's lives, and in our communities. And we should never accept less. Anyways, my loves, that was the astrology and tarot for this full moon. Please like and subscribe. It helps my channel grow and makes me feel good about the work that I do, and also makes me feel like I'm not screaming into the void. Although sometimes it's nice to like go on a rant and be like, and only 5 people saw it. Also, you can book a reading with me over on Instagram or on my website, which is thekeenwitch.com. Or you can send me an email to ask about that as well at thekeenwitch@proton.me. I wish you all the best of luck. It is going to be one for the books, but I also think it is going to be one of those tricky astrological moments where we look back and go, wow, what an incredible time to have been alive, and what an incredible time to endure and then see success very shortly after. All right, my loves. All of the love, all of the blessings, and I will see you all later.